What's going on, YouTube? Rukari here. This is the Minotaur Hotel. It's been a while, but it's very quiet. I think we're about to talk to Asterion's brother Andradius. I just have to figure out a name for the ghost man. Or not a name, a voice for the ghost man. You aren't supposed to cry this early. You haven't even heard my speech. We will have all the time to catch up once I save you, little star. Oh, that's sweet. Now don't worry, you made quite a mess, but I know you better than you know yourself. I'll show their excellencies just what kind of person you were and are. By the weight of my words and the value of my promises, it won't be long before we are walking away from here, my brother. Your excellencies, may I begin? Are we talking to the gods? I don't know if we're talking to the gods or not. No, he did not cry. He did not anger the gods. He did not get shipped to 100 different labyrinths. And during that night when his guard visited, he did not reject his request. Forsake the labyrinth. We can worship the gods all the same, pay their due respect in our own hearth and build a shrine around it. If my words and promises ever carried weight, then come, Asterion, and I will take you as my brother. Whoever that mysterious Feronius is. Yes. That was not a good yes. Yes. The Minotaur looks at you as if your face caught him off guard, just as reality itself roars back into his mind. He draws a breath, but this time it does not hitch. In fact, it overcomes all the stagnant air, a lungful so fresh it brings a wetness to one's eyes. I am sorry for my disrespect. I was inconsiderate during our conversation, Rukari. There's no reason to be sorry. I would appreciate it if you spoke to me with this frankness more often. I am afraid I can't take another conversation like this so soon, Rukari. This has been the hardest thing I've done since... Let's not go there. Indeed, no reason to poke those old memories. I will need some time. That's no issue. We have all the time in the world, right? At least until I die. We do. Again, except for the fact that I'm mortal. I remember you mentioning I remind you of a friend. Is that the Feronius fellow you talked about earlier? The Minotaur looks down to his hands. His right settles on top of the left and scratches it, his nails digging as if trying to unearth his veins. Am I allowed to ask why I remind you of him? You are the master. Of course you are. Please stop that. I am a person. Just treat me like one and pretend I didn't just accidentally advance the text. None of this is about orders this, master that. If you don't want to answer, it's fine. That's the end of it. It's because of things like this that you remind me of him. He was my guard. That was his official role. But in truth, he was my friend and playmate first. He was assigned to me when we were both children. The way you talk, the things you speak, your disregard for hierarchy. The way you look at me, I have caught myself thinking as if you were him. If Feronius had been a master, would he have been like the others? Would he have harmed you? No, there is nothing in this world I am more certain about than that. Why are you so sure he wouldn't do it? He wasn't that kind of man. It'd never cross his mind. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? Asterion knocks his knuckles on the wooden table. He licks his lips, and this time his tongue leaves a sheen of saliva. His eyes alternate from looking at you to deliberate, drawn-out blinks. He draws a breath and lays both of his hands on the table. He breathes out, and his arms inch a bit further. It's such a small distance, no more than an arm's length. In fact, it's almost cramped, as if you had to contain yourself to a nook of the room. Give him space and hold his hand and comfort him. I'm trying to make friends with him. You raise your hand an inch off the table. It feels light, not at all awkward. The Minotaur gives it a brief glance, a deliberate blink, a long exhale. You lay it over his. The veins pop on the back of his hands. You could trace them with your fingers following the short fur's direction. It's cold and sweaty, but not badly so. Your warmth mustn't be unwelcome. In fact, the Minotaur closes his eyes, breathes in, out, and droops his shoulders. The touch lingers only for a short while. The time demands his due. You let it go before overstaying your welcome. I really don't want to hurt you, buddy. I really do. I care. I promise. Not long afterwards, the Minotaur retreats to his room. You refrain from interrupting his peace for as long as possible, but hours later, you remember Luke's offer to stargaze. Perhaps it would be for the best allowing Asterion some time alone. He doesn't have to go out if he doesn't want to. While you are dressing yourself, however, he comes out of his room.
Are you going out?
Yeah, well, Luke invited us to some stargazing tonight, remember? You don't have to come if you don't want to.
Ah, yes, I was meaning to ask something about this. Would you, or perhaps Luke, mind if I brought my lyre along?
I'm sure we'll all appreciate your songs. A night with friends. Just friends, that's all it has to be right now.
Indeed, I'll only need a minute to get ready.
I'll wait for you. I'll always wait for you, buddy. Gah! You just need friendship and everything. Oh god, the kobolds are back. Before sunset, the griffin took out a few chairs to the parking lot. The stars above sparkle like a vein of ore. Luke is bathed in red light from a series of battery-powered lamps he brought with him. He pores over the papers strewn on the table, both his notes and a roughed-up book as long as your arm. It's an atlas of the starry sky. The wind threatens to blow it away, but the griffin uses a lamp as a weight. You saw him taking all of these things from his car's trunk. The Minotaur caresses his lyre, a sequence plucked, a plectrum grazing the strings, then shifting notes as he tunes it all. You and Kota look at each other, then off to the side. We're kind of the extras here. 3 little lizards scamper around you. They approach to take a closer look, eyes glimmering in the dark. Their little claws click against whatever trinkets they pick up to examine, keychains, pens, empty beer cans being passed around for half a minute before being pushed back where they were. After the slightest movement, they run off a yard or two into the wilderness and hide behind a rock. They chitter like birds, then go silent until the tops of their heads poke up from the rock. You slip them a few treats, some grilled chicken bits, a tuna sandwich, a few apples. Their fingers are grubby and so thin. Could you enlighten me about what exactly they are?
The answer...
Could you... I'm skipping... Sorry. Am I not allowed to read what he says? Yep, nope, I'm just not allowed to read every time Luke interrupts.
The answer is simple. This sky is like nothing I've ever seen, Asterion.
The Minotaur looks up to the griffin, blinks, and returns his attention to his lyre.
As I was saying, that's easy to answer. Years ago, I heard of a playful breed of diminutive reptile-like beings, said to live and toil underground. I really hope that was the voice I gave you. I have seen them a handful of times in my travels, mainly in the old world, and about a century or more ago. These boys have grown awfully scarce over the last decades. If memory serves me, they are called kobolds.
Kobolds? Like the metal? It's kobolds with a B, but maybe that's copywritten.
Indeed. I suppose it must relate to them being underground critters.
A yard away from the 4 of you, the kobolds play fight on the ground. And the chubby lizard crawls on all 4s and charges towards the darkest kobold, who dodges then immobilizes him. The loser groans, not too different from a shrill moo. Interesting. The chubby one slays himself on the ground like butchered cattle and plays dead. Over his corpse, the other lizards, the dark one and the light one, wrestle. When one trips on the chubby boy, he quickly crawls away, then stays by the sidelines, fidgeting and hugging himself. The dark boy wins, but a rematch follows. A cloud of dust rises, grunts and shrieks pierce it. The chubby boy groans something, but neither of the two listen to him. Are you sure they're safe to keep around? What if they're rabid?
If I am correct in my assessment, then yes, I'd say so. Some people see these little ones as pests, but they are diligent workers, assuming they are treated well. And I'll have you know they are quite resistant to just about any disease you can imagine. Plus, they are cold-blooded. No chance they can get rabies. They are very hard to kill.
I see. And just to be sure, what exactly does treating them well entail?
Oh, they don't need much. Food, water, a hole to sleep in. Shiny rocks and metals if you want to reward them. The shinier the better. They love pyrite.
Ironically, they love fool's gold because they are a bit foolish.
You can rely on them to work hard, although occasionally they may get distracted and goof off. Take a look. I'm sure they're about to pull something off.
The Kobold's wrestling match reaches its conclusion. It would seem the darker lizard won this time again, but this time the lighter one broke an ancient rule by pulling the other's tail. He straddles the loser and lets out a growl of victory, made throaty and ragged from the promise of violence lying under it. He's tired of the humiliation, time and again losing, and as a consequence, being put through the disgrace of eating the greatest apples. By the gods, how many times can a man be made to eat the burnt edge of a bread slice before losing his faith in justice and fairness? He pulls a weapon, a crumpled beer can. It is the time for violence. The chubby kobold throws himself to stop him, snorting and shrieking as snot runs down his nose. But their fate is sealed. Cain and Abel cannot avoid the tragedy that they were put in by God. In the last second, the darker kobold ponders about life. How there is no grand epiphany before one meets his end, no enlightenment. It all ends as abruptly as one's first memories begin. The lighter kobold brings the can down on the other's skull. It makes a dull thud, then bounces off a foot or two away. The loser lets out a dramatic wail, one filled with curses to demons and pleas to the gods, while the victor yells in maddened glory. Why has this turned into some scene out of some kind of epic tragedy? The chubby one cries and grieves. The winner takes the spoils, the ripest apple, the thickest chicken bit, and the middle of the sandwich overflowing with tuna. What a sick, twisted world this is. The chubby boy can only wail, moaning his characteristically shrill moo when invoking the Furies to bring retribution. The victor lets out a final shriek of glory. Hold it. Let it ring across the valley until it all dies down. The end. The three boys rise, hold each other's hands, and celebrate. What a marvelous performance. The troupe bows as the invisible audience offers them a standing ovation.
They are very playful, as you can see. Wouldn't you agree, Luke?
What?
The kobolds, aren't they the funniest things you've ever seen?
Yeah, sure. Funny little rascals ain't my lunch, but sure.
You can't blame them. They are so thin. Who knows when they last had a proper meal?
Uh-huh. The Griffin goes back to poring over his reddened papers. You get up to check how he's doing. There's a celestial atlas on the table. Its pages are thoroughly scribbled with very faint pencil marks. On the margins are lists of names and dates. So Luke, how's it going? Are the stars good tonight?
Absolutely! The night sky here is just incredible. Look for yourself. Have you ever seen stars as clear as this, Rukari?
Can't say I have. I don't think even the most secluded place I've ever visited was like this.
Aye, aye, not a drop of light. Pollution.
Aye, aye, not a drop of... Why can't I say words?
Aye, aye, not a drop of light.
Why is this so hard? And now the music stopped. Oh, there we go.
Aye, aye, not a drop of light pollution. If we were near a city with buildings and homes, lampposts, what have you, that old junk makes it hard to see the stars. But not a drop of that here. And I don't recognize these stars at all, not a single one of them.
Ah, your voice is so brutal on my throat.
Except maybe I see a string of hot stars that reminds me of Hydra, but it might just be a look-alike.
I might have an answer to that, Luke. Did it cross your mind we might not be in the Northern Hemisphere? Perhaps that is all you are familiar with.
It did, in fact, and that ain't it. Plus, I'll have you know, I know my way around the Southern Celestial Hemisphere. If there's one thing this bird brain here knows, it's the stars. As you may expect, brother, there's no telephone or GPS signal here either. So there's no way of knowing for sure where on Earth we are. But no place on Earth would have a sky like this. So, my hypothesis is we aren't on Earth at all.
Okay. It's, an interesting hypothesis.
Ah, is this your first time facing something deeply supernatural, Luke? I thought you'd be more acquainted with such circumstances.
Excuse me if I don't come from the mystical Far East, Mr. Dragon God. Back home, we don't have none of that shit. So why don't you enlighten us about what's going on, then?
Oh, well, you are coming at this from the wrong angle, you see. Magic isn't meant to be broken down with human science, Luke. It just is what it is.
Sorry, Chief, but that won't do for me. I'm in love with this sky, and I want to make it all mine.
I would hazard a guess that maybe it's got something to do with time. Like, maybe this place is out of time, so to speak, so we're seeing ancient stars. Maybe? I don't know. All I know is it's magic. He looks up. With a crown of stars over his head, one could forget the man's lecherous nature and crass jokes. For the night he carries well the majesty of America's bald eagle. I don't know what kind of feline he is. Mountain lion, I guess? Cougar? He could be a cougar.
Can you imagine it? If this whole place is on another planet, what could this mean for mankind? Maybe I could. It'd be such a pain in the ass. But maybe I could look into finding a star in common with the Earth's sky, but I don't even know where to start with. Where to start with that if I'm wrong about a Hydra?
I don't know. I just know you need to be quiet for a little bit.
Maybe if
What are you doing, Luke?
mapping this sky, boss, I can't let this opportunity pass by. I was talking with Asterion a few nights ago and he told me no one mapped it out. At least he didn't think anyone did, so I'm doing it. You mind if I make up constellations and give them names?
Maybe we could do it as a group effort. Could be a fun hobby. If Asterion is fine with it, then so am I. I mean, it's his hotel, not mine. Technically.
I see. Well, in that case, well, just to be sure, would it be okay if I name one after my brother?
I don't see why not.
Thanks. It's the dream come true, boss.
Brother, you say?
That's right. Peter was his name, and he used to stargaze as kids, and he'd come up with all the weirdest constellations you could imagine.
Aw, that's cute. Oh no, we're going into a memory.
Brother. Androgeus' hand covered the Minotaur's, a rough and calloused mitt on top of his fingers, covered only by a dusting of fur. For 2 weeks he taught his baby brother how to pull an arrow from a quiver, how to fit its notch on the bow's string, how to pull it with the back and not the arms. Acquiring the strength to pull the string came easily to the growing calf. Asterion of the step-wide back, that's what Androgeus called him, the archer's son. The dexterity to notch the arrow and aim eluded him, however, and it was years before the young hybrid could let loose a proper sequence of arrows. But one day Androgeus' teachings collapsed inward. Perhaps something changed in the Minotaur's eyes, or a blessing took root in his hands. All he learned was made flesh, and from then on his progress was nothing short of prodigious. From that day onwards, every other week or so, their father would rise early to watch their practices, to have his undivided attention as target after target fell until it all came to an end. Androgeus, how short was our time together, and yet few left such an everlasting impression in me. If only I had remained in Hades. Oh, poor guy.
Peter was such a cheeky son of a bitch. I even got a question wrong in an exam once. You know, turns out there's no such thing as an Argos constellation, though there is an Argos Navi. And the bastard got that one right, too. When I came out, he was laughing his ass off at me. He just knew from my face I'd gotten it wrong. In my defense, that one's from the southern hemisphere. So it's not like back then I had a chance to see it for myself.
I see. So you had a good relationship then.
Hell yeah! How about you, Blue Boy? Got any siblings back wherever home is for you? Any brothers?
I wonder what it is that makes two men brothers. Being born of the same parents, being raised together.
Well, yeah.
Is that so? Well, regardless. I had a brother once upon a time. A red-scaled dragon more apt in the martial arts than I. I, on the other hand, found my aptitude in priesthood and scholarship. Still, we got along well with one another, like two halves of a whole, as the shrine priests would say. And indeed, we would have our disagreements and our arguments, but they never mattered much in the end. Onsen and I,
The dragon loses himself in reminiscence for a moment. Onsen is like a Japanese inn. Or a Japanese, spring, hot spring. Onsen's. The dragon loses himself in reminiscence for a moment, then the smile drops off his face.
Of course, circumstances made us go our separate ways in the end.
Oh, you know where he is? How he's doing?
Who knows?
And there goes the mood. Androgynous, I never asked if you liked the feathers. That night was much like this. I aimed my bow to a star, as if somehow my arrow could reach it and set it loose. 3 times I fired an arrow, and then it fell. Feronius and I prepared the fire. Our sacrifice to you, feathers of a holy bird. As for Feronius, we had no common blood, but we were brothers just the same. That night we partied and drowned the embers with wine, and you told me to. Forsake the labyrinth. We can worship the gods all the same, pay the due respect in our own hearth, and build a shrine around it. This must be the one that, oh, what's-his-face, the snaky bastard was talking about, the shrine, the false shrine that they made.
Asterion?
You can have your freedom if we build our faith.
Asterion, are you listening?
The Minotaur looks to the dragons, lips sealed as the words cut through his thoughts. He takes a swig from his wine bottle.
Pardon me, what did you say? I was asking, do you have any siblings? Yes, brothers and sisters. Do you mind if I ask where they are now? They aren't around anymore. Quite a while since we last talked. I see. That's quite peculiar to me. I've traveled a lot, seen the world, and yet I had never seen a minotaur with my own eyes. In fact, of all myths and legends, it is widely believed that minotaurs didn't exist, or at least don't anymore. Would you mind telling me your siblings' names?
Well, you see, funny story, his siblings aren't actually, minotaurs? The Minotaur raises his eyes from the lyre. The Griffin and the Dragon had seen much of the labyrinth's mysteries by now, but he hadn't told them, and neither did the Master he had assumed, about his true nature. Did the dragon learn about it somehow? Feronius was my brother.
Is that so? A very Greek name, just like yours. Is that a family tradition? It's our culture. Greek culture. Or perhaps it's closer to...
You know, it was my brother who first called me Luke. Did yours ever give you a nickname, Asterion?
Yes, he used to call me Little Star.
Little Star, huh? That's the name of a hymn my ma used to sing to me. Would you care to hear it?
If you would like to share it, yes.
Oh God, am I supposed to sing as this bastard? Oh, I don't know if I could do that. Oh, okay. Hold on. I'm gonna take a drink. Okay.
What?
Do I make it raspy, or do I just... You know, I'm just gonna sing, come hell or high water, because I don't think I can do the raspy voice thing and sing. How wise you look, little star, away up yonder in the sky. How many years have you twinkled there above the world so high? Little star away up yonder, tell me, were you shining then? Did you hear the angels singing peace, goodwill to men? I often wonder if you were there when Christ lay in the stall, and if you saw from your dizzy height the infant Lord of all. If you had listened on that night, could you have heard the song that floated down on the midnight air from that angelic throng? Oh yes, a wise little star you are, yet not a word to say. You watch all night o'er the drowsy earth and sleep all through the day. Thank you, thank you. Pretty, huh? Yes, it is nice.
Now that this little diversion is resolved, Rukari, Asterion, today Luke and I went down to the bedrock. That's where we found the kobolds. I hope you won't mind, but I looked over some of the contracts and documents stored there. What we found was...
Yeah, the truth. Yes, what you found is... Go on. Say it. Now you know the truth. I am Asterion, the Minotaur.
Yes, but what did you do to deserve this?
I displeased the gods. That alone warrants punishment. You should know that well enough, considering your age and precedents.
No, that's not even scratching the surface. There has to be more to the story. There are millions of mortals who went far beyond displeasing the gods they worship, and I cannot believe any received a punishment so severe as yours. Was it murder? Cannibalism? That is the legend after all, that you...
Coda, stop it! He doesn't want to talk about it.
That I see, but we have a right to know what this is all about, and...
Whatever it is he did, no matter... Oh, I blew out the microphone on that so bad. Whatever it is he did, no matter how big or small, it's already been paid 100 times over.
I suppose you are correct on that one. Still, it does not answer what exactly is going on here. For instance, you, Rukari, if I understand correctly, your role in all this is being his torturer. There were rocky moments in our interactions, but in my brief time here, I've seen no reason to question your morals. But please, you must understand I cannot, will not work in a place that tortures someone. There is no magic, no amount of gold, nothing that would convince me to do it, so please, I must know what is going on here.
Well, we're not actually doing that.
Rukari. Look, I didn't want to bring it up tonight, but I'm still freaked out and trying to get a hold of it. And I ain't sure just saying it like Coda did is what I'd do. But hell, I'm with him here. I've done my fair share of fucked up stuff in my life. I'm no saint, but that's all behind me now. I gotta know what this whole labyrinth thing is. So now that the cat's out of the bag, would you mind, brother?
You gather your thoughts from the night you received the deed to finding Asterion in the cold room and everything that came after. What an absurd story it is. And it's been less than 2 weeks since you arrived here. As you string the facts together, it becomes clear how absurd it is, and that the mere idea of having absolute power over this realm and Asterion is objectionable enough, even if you didn't misuse it. But still, you tell them your version until finding Asterion in the cold room. Which is when the Minotaur jumps in and begins corroborating the story, if not telling his own version. It doesn't take more than 15 minutes to get them up to speed.
Asterion, Rukari, I don't know what to say.
So that's why you looked different last night. But why didn't you tell us?
The less people know it, the more I can just live, ignore it all, and enjoy what I have. It is only because you went up to the valley and saw what it holds that I am willing to speak. Regardless, that was a story I had no interest in ever sharing.
Is there no way to set you free, brother? There must be.
If there was, I assume he'd have achieved it by now.
Indeed, I am yet to see a hint of a way out. Luke turns back to his celestial maps, but gazes instead at his feet. Kota looks off to the road and runs a hand over his beard. Asterion draws a breath, holds it, lets it out in a hoarse wheeze. Even the kobolds interrupted their roughhousing. Now they sit by a rock a few feet away and watch Asterion. None of them directs as much as a glance towards you, but their presence bears on you regardless. You are the boss, after all. If anyone has legitimacy to speak and take the reins, it's you. The events from this afternoon are still fresh. That's a good start. Regardless of whether or not there's one, I can do my part. We were talking earlier today about it. For all intents and purposes, Asterion is my business partner. We work together, make decisions after consulting each other, even live under the same roof. Asterion said there's no way I could make that official here, and indeed the labyrinth may have its contracts and laws. It may stop me from signing a document about it. But we don't need paperwork for this. The truth speaks for itself. If we all acknowledge the fact that Asterion and I are equal partners, if everyone knows it, then that's the truth. And you can make me accountable for it, right? Now that you know the truth about the valley, what will you do if I ever send Asterion out again?
That's not right. We'd stop you.
That's right. Even if you didn't outright restrain me, you could disobey me by, let's say, going on a strike. None of you have to trust me to do the right thing out of the goodness of my heart. You can stop or pressure me. And if we keep this up for long enough, for the decades, I'll be the hotel's manager, then... Yeah. And if we keep this up for long enough, for the decades I'll be the hotel's manager, then... When the next one comes around, he won't have a choice either, will he? Everyone will expect Asterion to be treated as a partner. That's all they'll have ever known. All these restraints will pass on to him. People will demand it. We can't know for sure what the future holds, but this could be enough to keep you safe, Asterion. It might even be a deterrent against other people like Clement in the future.
I'm not sure that will resolve all forms of future issues, but regardless, it sounds like a good idea.
Might have to call it here soon.
Yeah, it does sound good, but if someone wanted to do something fucked up, it wouldn't really stop them. I mean, even if you wanted to do something bad, you could still do it behind closed doors. Hell, if Coda and I aren't paying attention, you could still send Asterion out to the creepy valley.
Asterion, is there a way we could use some of the hotel's magic to deal with this?
Could there be something you could use? I don't know, I'm not that smart. I mean, Snaky Guy seemed like... Nah.
The contract also has a non-aggression clause. I shall not hurt you. You shall not hurt me. It is a self-enforcing agreement. We will both find ourselves unable to break it. The laws here, you see, apply themselves. Contracts are very powerful. On the off chance one of us somehow breaks one of the terms, then our pact is terminated. I lose the powers bequeathed to me, and your hotel's hearth will go out. The trinket reverts back to my ownership. It is a most fair agreement, I'd say.
I mean, I guess we're gonna try and use something of what Argo said. I have an idea, but I'm not sure it can work. Asterion, I recall you saying that I can't forbid myself from sending you out. But I was thinking, the contract Argos proposed. If I recall, it said something along the lines of Hestia's Mir reverting to his ownership if certain conditions are met, like me hurting him. If I hurt him, then something I dislike happens. Couldn't we apply the same principle here? We're looking for loopholes, boys! A simple request, really. If a condition is realized, then an unpleasant consequence is triggered. Too many such contracts have been crafted over the millennia, so much that there are dozens at the bedrock. And yet few, if any, to restrict the all-powerful master. There is one contract he could use, one the Minotaur is well acquainted with, yet his neck bristles, he grits his teeth and bites his tongue. What hubris to even consider putting a master through such infamy. Or a friend, for that matter. There is no way anyone would accept it. Rukari will refuse, but then at least the Minotaur will be able to breathe free of doubt. The charade will be over. This is like what something done to the Minotaur is done to the Master?
There is something we can do, but I am afraid you won't like it, my lord. I am aware of an old contract that can create a pair of linked artifacts. It's been used a few times by lords past.
What does it do?
Are you sure this is what you want? Would you really go as far as restricting yourself to accomplish this? The contract creates two armbands, one in the form of a laurel wreath, one in a simple ring of lead. We establish clauses, the conditions which we wish to stop from ever coming true. Let's say we intend to stop you from ever sending me to the valley. Then you would don the lead ring, I would take the laurel wreath, and we sign the contract with 2 eyewitnesses.
Then it would stop me from doing it.
Strictly speaking, no. What it would do is inflict a punishment on you if it ever came true.
What's the punishment?
It would amputate your arm.
That's pretty severe. That's just quite a punishment. That's a lot.
It is. The lead ring cannot be removed either, unless the contract is revoked with the consent of both parties and all eyewitnesses. But if you want to prove to me that you have no ill will, then this is your chance. I can get the contract now, tonight. I already know the terms I'd want.
Okay, what do you have in mind?
That I shall not be forced or coerced to go to the valley. That is all I want. If you are telling the truth, if you don't want to bring me harm and wish to realize the hotel's mission, then this condition should not be controversial. I have no business in the valley. For centuries before Clement, I never had a reason to go there, and no master saw a reason to either. This clause does not specify who forces or coerces me to go to the valley, mind you. If this term is signed, then it will be in your best interest to protect me from anyone who would. I don't want you to be harmed either. You've been a good master, so you can expect me to defend you from any who would so much as try to force you. If what you said tonight is true, if you truly want to make me your business partner, this is the one thing that will convince me once and for all. I want to never go back to the valley again. That's all I want. Give me this one thing, and I will follow you. Not because you are my master, but because then I'll know you, that you meant all that you said.
I think this is a dramatic enough moment to end this episode on. So we are going to tell Asterion what we intend to do. Are we gonna agree? Are we gonna chicken out? I don't know. I just realized Coda is not wearing pants. Coda, why aren't you wearing pants? We're gonna call this episode here. Sorry, it's been a bit of a while for this series, but we're getting back into it. It was just a little hard to pre-record episodes for this because The voices do a number on my throat, but we're gonna get back into this. We've got now that we get a little more time in our hand, and we're gonna keep going. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you are enjoying this series, and I will see you all in the next episode. Goodbye!